The first thing that I want to talk about this morning, and you guys can tell me if it's already been talked about, but I wanted to talk about the analysis tool. Have we done that?
Adrian,
No.
it doesn't work in speech cart, which is I think what like Colette and Allison have.
Okay.
So that's why we hadn't talked about it.
Okay. Well, Colette and Allison, until we get speech cart where we want it, I'd be more than happy to dial into your computers and put speech cat on your computers until we have the cart and captioning module finished. Because there's going to be some major changes to it. We're going to put the captioning module into the cart module and call it speech cart cap. And that will be the module that all captioners and cart providers will be using. But until then, I would like to switch out to SpeechCat. And what I would like to show you this morning is the analysis tool, which allows you to see how fast you are going during your dictation. So what I've done is I've selected a dictation that's, for me, long, which is a 17-minute dictation. And you can always see that in the record column. You can see how long your dictations were. And so I have that selected, and I'm going to click on View and Analysis. And it's going to ask me, would you like to see information for this job? Accuracy information is only relevant for jobs that have been voice corrected. I'm just going to say no to this because I don't know if I've corrected it or not. And then I want to show you this analysis tool here. This is really, really cool. This tells me that the fastest I went during this dictation was, it looks like, at the 14-minute mark where I got to 172. The major benefit of this feature is that it allows me to then say, okay, well, if I was going the fastest at minute 14, then that's what I want to make sure I correct, because your fastest dictation is almost always going to be your most challenging portion of the of the whole dictation. And so we definitely want to be able to go there and do correction. You can print it out, as you can see. I'm going to just go ahead and click on Scopus. I'm going to load the speech engine.
Can I add something to this, Adria?
Always.
Most of the cart people, I think at this point, aren't recording a backup of their voice or the room. So when you do that, you don't have the recording. You won't have the audio here on the right, and on the main screen, it won't tell you how long you were on you recorded for.
Oh, so you're saying the analysis tool won't work?
No, the analysis tool will work, but when you were on the main screen and you showed how long the job was,
yes,
that will not show if you're not recording audio.
Ah. Okay, so that's good information. And definitely, if it doesn't show the amount of time, but you can still go to the analysis tool, you can still figure out where your fastest time was. And that's what is really important here. One of the things I want to just mention, because I'm seeing it, is the as I've been doing TED Talks, and I'm sure a lot of you have been doing TED Talks, what you may have noticed is that especially with TED Talks, if there is laughter in the audience, which there seems to almost always be, they will put laughter in the transcript on a line by itself. And it'll be enclosed in brackets because that's the way I entered it. And what I did was I went into my vocabulary editor. I'm going to just go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to bring up custom words only. And I'm going to click on one of my environmental sounds. Okay, so I'm going to click on the environmental sound and I'm going to click on properties. This one happens to be applause. And what I've done is I've added previously the spoken form and the written form. I say AppMac for applause. And here in word properties, I've said, okay, well, I want it to be preceded by a new line and I want to follow with a new line. And I don't do anything about formatting the next word. It's not that important to me.
You should change it. What I found from other people who do card is that the next word would need to be capitalized.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
There we go. And so we can click on OK. And we've now affected the word properties. I think that one thing that Michelle is working on is exporting. She's working on, correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, adding all these environmental sounds and the word properties, I believe, right? And
yeah, it's actually in the CART class. There's on building accuracy, I believe, is importing the list into your vocabulary. And I have changed the properties of all the words.
Would you tell them about that, please, a little bit, Mitch?
About
the way that you're exporting it that allows the word properties to be included?
Okay. Could you close out of this and I'll walk them through it?
You bet. You want me to switch presenter or?
No, I have Flynn in my arm, so I can't really do anything.
Okay, so you can.
I apologize in advance if you.
No, you talk and I'll do it.
Okay. He may give us some commentary on what we're doing wrong. Okay. As a matter of fact, I think that okay. So what we would do here is if we go down to the lower right-hand corner of the screen and right-click on the dragon icon, which is the red circle with the microphone on it. We go to Vocabulary, Export Custom Words and Phrase List. So what it's going to do is it's going to give us the opportunity to export our custom word list. And what we want to do, it creates a simple text file or XML file. And what we want to do first of all is save it as an XML file. And we want to change this to, let's say, CART environmental sounds. Flynn, tell them what to do. Okay, and if you would click on save, and then we'll go, what that does is it exports all of the properties, including the new line before, the new line after, and the capitalization after. It also preserves the properties within the punctuation. When you create your own custom punctuation, you have to go in and change the properties of that. And so it maintains. Now, if you want to open, if you right click on it and open with Notepad or WordPad.
Would you rather WordPad, Mitch?
No, this is fine. I usually use this, whatever this is. And so you can see here, like if you look at audio lost, there's no custom formatting on it. But if you scroll down to applause, was it applause that you just did, or?
I think it was AppMac, yeah, applause.
Oh, we'll go back up to laughter. See how laughter, see laughter has more information. So within it, it has information about formatting it. Whereas the ones that are simply the list, with just the words. Those don't have any formatting.
Okay. So thank you, Mitch. That's really important. I think that it's especially important if you'd like to share it with someone else who needs the environmental sounds and may not have the time to go in and focus on the word properties of every single environmental sound. Michelle's got a great list. I think that I don't know if the list came from Vicky, but I got my list from Vicky, and it's an awesome list. And as you can see from what I exported, I have not yet gone and done all of the word properties for every one of them. So if I were to go and import Michelle's word property, Michelle's environmental sound list, then I would then have everything I needed already pre-formatted for me. All I'd have to do is go in and train them. So that's a really, really huge benefit. So you should all check that out and see about adding that before the next class.
And it would be a good idea if anybody thinks, if anybody imports the list and sees that there are some things missing in the Ace Cart Hotshots Facebook group, if you could add them there, it would be great.
Wonderful. Okay, so I would like to just go ahead and show you that if you are recording audio, or even if you're not, if you want to go and find the place, I think that I said it was 14 minutes where I was going the fastest, I could find the 14-minute area there. And let's see, there I'm at 17. So let's see.
There's nothing.
Avon, Mike. And that's why Daddy wants you to be saying other people, all right? Other people, all right? So there was a way in which I was so awkward in the beginning. I felt happy that he was able to talk about it. It felt like he was getting it. We moved from the sadness of Trayvon's parents and started talking about George Zimmerman's parents, which I read in a magazine, condoned the stalking of Trayvon.
So this is pretty much where 14 begins. So I place my cursor there and I can turn correction on and literally start my correction right here. And that is how I would suggest you find and do correction on your the fastest parts of your dictation, because obviously the slowest parts or the most comfortable parts are going to be where you have the best recognition accuracy. When you start going faster, that's when it becomes a little bit more challenging. And so it's a great idea for you always to do correction mechanism at your fastest speed so that you're always increasing your accuracy at the fast speeds. And that's crucial. So you would just start from here. You would do your correction, then you would go to utterance summary, push the corrections through, and then you would save your speech files. And so that's a huge benefit. And that was the main thing, that and the analysis tool that I wanted to talk about today. So what I'd like to do now is open the floor for any questions that anyone may have about anything that they've learned in this course or would like to learn.
I just have a question, or maybe would love some help with numbers. I feel like, and I don't know if anyone has any tricks, but I feel like I get really lost with numbers. It's like when they're going fast, that's like I always mess up with the numbers, and I sometimes, I just feel like, especially with the real-time coach, the one that's holding me back is the one with all the numbers. So I didn't know if anyone had any tips or anything like that.
That's a really good question. Would anybody, Mandy, do you have suggestions or?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I've created, when I very first started, I created a new word for a numeral for everything. So, and I do so many math classes. So I always add ski if I want the actual numeral, and I just make sure to say that. And then I know it's 100% always going to come out the right way. Is that what you mean?
Yes, yeah, that's very helpful. So you add ski at the end.
That is what I do. But I have to, when I use Audio Scribe, it seems like if I just chunk it, it gets it right. Like it knows if I say 2x plus 4y equals 5z, it seems like it just knows it. So I can say most of the time I push my luck because I'm screen sharing, so I can make corrections. I'll admit it if I need to. But so most of the time, if I phrase it in chunk like that, it'll come out right. But if I'm not 100% sure and I need it to be right, and I can't make corrections, I always add the ski because then I know it's going to be right. And I did it in my real-time rules. I love those.
Very good.
Thank you.
Now, Allison, do you have this numerics? Do you have the numerics real-time rules list?
I don't know if I have that.
Okay. This is the numerics real-time rule list, and it's just a folder with all sorts of numbers that the way that we created this was that, and this is the phrase list, and then this is the word list. One of the things that the way this was created was that when we were first developing the CART and captioning portion, the captioning portion of SpeechCat specifically, one of the things that we had a problem with, well, Chris called and said, well, I'm having a problem with my numbers being consistent. And I have them in real-time rules, so I don't know what the problem is. And so I said, well, is it possible that you maybe have them in multiple places? And she said, geez, I don't know. And so I went into a few of her folders and noticed that there were conflicting entries. And so what I decided to do, I asked her if I could take all of her folders and literally remove the numbers from every single one of her real-time folders and put them all in one folder that I named numerics. The whole purpose for this was so that we would have the ability to have numbers work well without creating conflicts that would disallow SpeechCat to do its job with real-time rules. And so since I've done this, I've shared the numerics folder many times, and I'm more than happy to give it to you guys as well. And what I would encourage you to do is stay away from putting numbers in every folder and try to stick to adding numbers to your numerics folders.
Adria, I will say this much. I've been revamping the speech part portion of the class, and in the building accuracy with clean text and word lists, I have specific instructions. There's an assignment on creating your own numerics folder and simply copying the information from your file to one on their computer.
Oh, so that they can just add it from what they've created, or?
They can, it shows them how to create the folder in their real-time rules and add the words from the phrase list to this. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Through the process of creating the folder and adding everything from the numerics export that you have.
Okay, so you've already put that in the speech cart class. So you guys might want to go to the speech cart class and do that exercise. Do you know what exercise it is?
I'm gonna find out, and I'll put myself on mute because Flint's having a talk fest, and I'll let y'all know when I find it.
Okay, thank you. So that is a really good suggestion, and something that will walk you through doing this. And it's really important because, as Allison said, numbers can be crazy. And as Mandy said, I can't even imagine doing a math class. I think that's pretty much my idea of hell, having to deal with that many numbers. So, but numbers can be challenging for sure. Anybody else?
I'm struggling with, especially in real-time coach, like hyphenated words. Sometimes when they should be, it doesn't, and sometimes when they shouldn't be, it does. And I'm not sure what I should be doing. You know, when you're going so fast, do you put it in? Does it know? Like sometimes it just knows, but then I get it. You know, when you check afterwards, I have a lot wrong because of that, and also like plurals and possessives.
So you're having problems with it not writing plurals and possessives?
Yeah, sometimes like if I want a plural, it'll do a possessive or vice versa.
Okay, Michelle or Mandy, do y'all have anything that y'all would suggest? I would think that it would be really important to make sure that your auto formatting is correct for what you are using it for. And you know, as a student, you're still learning so much. We are all still learning so much as to what is acceptable in CART as opposed to court reporting, because court reporting handles numbers very differently, whereas CART, I don't know if there are any rules as to the way numbers are supposed to format, or if there's a preference to formatting in the CART world.
Readability is usually the preference is readability.
And so what does that mean to us?
I'm sorry. If you're in a class and you're watching, I've asked my consumers over the years, especially if it's a math class, how do you want numbers or digits? And they all like the digits. So you would much rather read the digit 5x plus 3y than the words. They would be harder to follow super fast.
Yes.
So I try in math and those kind of instances, I try and use digits, but truthfully, it is not a make or break situation. Of course, you want to try and, get what the consumer wants. I don't know that there's a standard, an industry standard. I think it goes by firm. I think it should, just go by consumer because that's what we're doing it for.
Right.
But yeah, I don't, and it's not an error on a test. If you would take a CART test and you had the word 3 instead of the number 3, it's still right because, it's getting the information, equal access to the information. So it's still right. It's not, this isn't like crisis, as court reporters, of course it feels like it because we want it to be perfect, but it's not CART and captioning, it's more readability and getting the information, equal information.
What about the hyphens that Colette was talking about? Like if a word, like in the transcripts in real-time coach where they're hyphenated, how is that handled in CART?
If it comes out, great, that's awesome. But if it doesn't come out, well, you still know the student, the consumer is still going to know what that word is and means, and it's certainly not an error on a test either.
Okay. And but the possessives would be those. Like plurals.
Yeah. I add apostrophe S if I'm not 100% sure that word's going to come out right. Then I have to say it and enforce it. I say apostrophe S if I need to. But for the most part, if I phrase it right, I haven't really had a problem with that yet. So, but maybe I just haven't noticed and I really do have a problem. So I'm going to really look at that this week. But if I am really worried, I really concentrate on phrasing at that moment.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Of course, everything's great advice, y'all.
One of the things that I've been working on this week is a prefix and suffix list. this is something that Chris created several years ago for us, and we had a prefixing and suffixing feature, but I think we ended up just turning off because nobody was using it. But what I did was I took her prefixes list, and what I did was, let me bring up the topic file for that. Okay, so can you guys all see this prefix list?
Yes.
Okay, great. So what this is these are all prefixes and a spoken form for them. That's not to say that you can't change the spoken form. You absolutely can. And if you, what I would suggest you do is that if you want to add these prefixes and suffixes to your vocabulary, you should open up the notepad document and actually look through it and say, okay, well, would this make sense to me? Like, look at electro. It's tromac. You know, that may not be a natural thing for some people. One of the things that we learned years ago is that you can't learn an entire list in one day, and you shouldn't expect yourself to do that. But what you need to do is, once you look at the list, ask yourself, is this something I'm hearing? Is this something I'm seeing that's not currently working for me? And should I then add it? And what I did was, in my word list, I'm going to go back to my vocabulary editor, my custom words only. And I'm going to look for my prefixes. Let's see if I've started. I don't think I've added them yet. No, it doesn't look like I've added them yet. So if I wanted to add this list, what I'm trying to do is go in and edit these things prior to exporting a list. I'd like to do an XML list for you guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add right now those 2 word lists. And before I do that, let me share this file with you.
I have a question. Is it okay to ask it now?
Absolutely.
On your list that you just pulled up, how come instead of having the straight vertical line between the words, you had like a slash?
That's a very good question. The slash is actually what tells Dragon Naturally Speaking that this is a spoken form.
Okay.
Whereas the up and down is what we use for real-time rules and things like that. But with the prefix, any word list that you're going to add to Dragon, if it has a backslash and then another word after it, those are your spoken forms. And it's easier. You know, it's just easier to add a spoken form before you enter it, because if you don't add the spoken form before you enter this into your vocabulary, then you will have to go in and add them again with a spoken form. So in my opinion, it's really useless to add it without a spoken form. You might as well be entering it individually.
Got it.
Because you'll have to go and add a spoken form by re-adding the word. That's why I always like to have spoken forms. So I'm going to click on next here. I always like to preview the list of unknown words. I'm going to click on next. I'm going to go to add file. and I'm going to, all of my word lists are under topic files, marker files, and word list. So I'm going to go and notice that I have one with just the word list, and then I have one with spoken forms, because that's what I did, was add them with the spoken forms. So I'm going to select them both. I can click on the first one, then hold down the control key to click on the other one that I want. Then I can click on open. And then I see both of my word lists. So I'm going to click on next. And now it says that they have been analyzed because I see my little green checks. That's what I want to see. And then here are all the words. And I can do check all because I want to add all of these words to the vocabulary. Then I would click on next. And then I could click on check all and train. And when you do that, you're actually going to see all of the words that you've added with their spoken forms. And the only thing you need to do then is literally say the word that you see in the uppermost white box. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on train so that you can see that what's going to happen is immediately it is going to flip to the next word after I say the first word. So I'm just going to show you real quick how that works. I'm going to just pause, and that's just how you do it. So sometimes I tell people to open up the word list first and just say them out loud as you're looking at them. That way you'll have a plan as to how you're going to say it when it actually comes up. And, you know, they make sense when you actually look at the word and then you look at the spoken form. You know, when it's a suffix, it's going to be this word attached to the back of the previous word. And when it's a prefix, it's going to be the word attached to the front of the word that you're about to say. So, or no, suffixes are behind the word, prefixes are before the word. And so all you need to do is have a look at it. You can wait to add these until I've got the proper word properties. So I'm going to cancel this right now because I do not want to add them until the word properties are there. So I'm probably going to add them in a different vocabulary and then export them with the word properties and then bring them into my list. And I'll have that ready for all of you so that you can bring that into your word list. Because what I have to do is I have to actually go into the Dragon editor, and I'm going to go ahead and just add one of the words from the list. Okay, I will go ahead and do co. So I'm adding in co and comac. I'm going to click on add. Okay, wait, hang on. Somebody's not muted and it is driving me crazy. Thank you so much. Okay. So now I'm going to train Comac. Okay, so I've trained it. I'm going to show my custom words only so that I can go find it. Okay, so I have two. I'm going to delete one. Okay, so I'm going to go to word properties. And what I want to do is, this is like co-conspirator, you know, co-parent, whatever. This is going to come before. And so we can insert one space before it, but we don't want any spaces after it because it is going to attach to the word that comes after it. So if I want it to be co-conspirator, I want co to attach to conspirator. And so I don't want it to be followed by any spaces. And I don't want to have any other of this. We certainly don't want it to have a capitalization because it's attaching to a word. So really, that's the only thing I would want to change about it. I would click on OK. And now this entry here has word properties that say, go ahead and attach this word to whatever word comes after it. And so it's as simple as that. And I'm going to get that done for you so that you can add it with the word properties so that you don't have to go in and do all of that yourself. It's not a huge list, but it's enough to take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to do that for you. So are there any other questions regarding prefixes and suffixes, or comments or suggestions?
I love it. I can't wait to add those. I do so many pharmacology. Well, this semester I have pharmacology and bio, dia, die. Those words make me nutty. So this is going to rock.
Awesome. So glad to hear it. That's great. I think that it is something, you know, and people, even in court reporting, court reporters sometimes use these because people make words up. Oh my God. You know, they are just convinced that any word they want to, they can just create. And so this helps with those words, you know, like somebody, like aholic is in there. Well, you could be an alcoholic, but you could also be a shopaholic or an eataholic or a readaholic or, you know, whatever, you know, and you hear that sort of stuff a lot. And so it's good to have the ability to, per se, create your own words by using some standard prefixes and suffixes. So I hope that this is going to help a lot. I'm going to get these two word lists done with their properties this week. And so what I will do is, as soon as I have it done, I will email you all with the attachments. That way you'll have it on your computer, and if nothing else, we can go over importing it again if you'd like next Sunday. But I think that it would be very helpful. And also just be paying attention to with the dictations that you do as to what in what capacity you will end up needing these words. Mandy's example was just fantastic. And that is exactly the kind of thing we're trying to handle with the prefixes and suffixes list, and also made up words. So I think that's going to be a good thing for you all to have, and it may help with some things. I think that a long time ago when we first added the feature, I can't remember if we put hyphens after all of the prefixes and hyphens before the suffixes, to make them create a compound word with a hyphen. I don't know if that is a good idea, or just going ahead and using them in the way I've just described is a good idea. Mandy, maybe you can be thinking about that and let us know if you already know, please do let us know if we would need to add hyphens at all, or if just adding the prefixes and suffixes without it is best.
I'll try and add them and think about it this week while I'm working to see if I have any trouble or think, oh no, I should have had a hyphen.
Okay, great.
And I'll make a note of them.
Great. Well, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add hyphens. I'll make a duplicate of the list, and I'll add hyphens to them so that we'll be ready to, add either ones with or without the hyphens. That way, either way, you have it correct, and once we know if we're seeing it with the hyphens or without, we can add the appropriate word list by doing that. So any other questions or requests? No? Okay, well, if that's all, I hope you learned something today. I'm going to let you all go and enjoy your Sunday morning. I hope you're having a beautiful one.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you guys have a great week. And as always, let us know if you need some help.
Thank you. Have a great
Adrienne.
week.
Thank you.
And
Hey,
I
y'all
will
are so
tell you,
welcome.
I learn
Yes.
something every time.
Aw.
Always learn something every time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
Me too.
Aw, you're welcome. Thank you all so much. Y'all have a great day.
Bye.
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 Bye.